Okay, so now we're going to get into something a little more interesting. So basically, in today's cooking, a lot of today's kitchens, we use a device called a thermocirculator, or as most people call it, sous vide cooking. And so today I'm going to show you the difference between cooking a piece of beef tenderloin traditionally, like in a pan, and we're also going to cook it in sous vide to show you the final product, what the difference is. So the first thing I need to do is trim my beef tenderloin. Okay. So now that I've got most of my fat off and most of my silver skin peeled off, now what I want to do is separate this into the sections that I need it for. So each tenderloin has three basic sections. There's the tail, the center, and the head. Okay, so I've got this all nice and trimmed up here, cleaned up. So as I mentioned, I want to just split this into the three different sections. So right here, you can see that there's two different muscles on the side of the head of the tenderloin, and then the actual head of the tenderloin. So this I'm going to split right off at that junction. So that's our head of the tenderloin, which can be used for steaks and for different things. This here is the center section. So this is what I want to use right now. And this is the tail section. So there's three different sections. So I'm going to cut two nice thick steaks. Just like that, okay? The rest of this we'll use for something else. And what I'm going to do is tie these up. And then we're going to put one into a vacuum bag. Okay, so now as you can see, I've got my beef tenderloin wrapped up, and it's just inside this nice little vacuum pack here. So there's no air inside, and I've just got my rosemary, my thyme, my garlic, a little butter, and a little oil. So what I want to do with this is now use one of these machines, and this machine here is what's heating up this water bath. This is a Samick thermocirculator, or a Samick sous vide machine, and what this does is that I can set this to an exact temperature. It's right now sitting at 52 degrees exactly. And then what I can do is put these balls on top. These are just hollow, empty plastic balls. And what they do is they help to keep the water temperature more regulated and also reduce the amount of evaporation from the heat that's coming out of here. So what I want to do with this now is just plop this into the water bath. Very easy, okay? So as you recall, I vacuum packed my beef tenderloin, and then I've got one here as well. So what I want to do is take a frying pan and a little bit, again, of neutral oil, a nice grapeseed oil, just something very simple. That's going to go into a hot pan. And as I've mentioned a couple times already, you want to make sure that the meat that you're cooking is dry. It's one of the biggest bonuses or advantages to cooking is when you have your meat dried, and if you're cooking steak, to have it at room temperature. So I'm going to take a little bit of salt, and you can be pretty generous with the salt at this point, because as we cook the steak, the salt's going to come off. So my pan is nice and hot. Again, I've just got a very small amount of oil. I don't need tons. And I'm just going to put my beef in there and let that start to sear. My beef. So you can see now my tenderloin has got a very nice, even gold crust. So now my beef, both sides have a nice golden brown. So this now I'm going to put into the oven at 190 degrees, and we're going to roast this for about 7 or 8 minutes. So I put my Brussels sprouts in the oven, and I took my other beef tenderloin, the one that I'm cooking traditionally, and you can see it's got a really nice brown crust on it, and this is feeling just about ready. So what I'm going to do is take this one out of the pan, and I'm going to put my pan just on a medium to low heat here, with a little bit, again, of this neutral oil here. I'm going to get some butter ready. And then again, I've got some garlic, some thyme, and some rosemary. So now what I can do is season up my tenderloin here on both sides. And this we're going to put into a nice hot pan. And we want to start to sear that off. So for our truffle sauce as well, this cream has been reduced. So the truffle sauce, I had some shallots, some butter, some seasoning, salt, and pepper. Right at the end, I'm going to put in a little bit of truffle paste. Okay, this is black truffle paste. And I'm just going to swirl that around. So we're just going to sear this off. So our tenderloin here is getting a nice amount of color on it. We just want to sear it on all sides, okay? So this is getting nice and browned. I'm going to put my other tenderloin back in with my shallots, with my garlic, my butter, my thyme, my rosemary, and then we'll just start to baste this over. So I'm going to take a little bit of my truffle cream and just put that into the bottom of my plate here. Just keep it nice and tidy. I'm going to take a few Brussels sprouts. Just put these in here. So now we're going to take our tenderloin, which we cooked in a traditional manner using the pan and the oven. And we'll just take our string off. Obviously, you don't want to serve it to the guest with the string till it's still attached, right? And so what I'm going to do is just trim off a little bit of the outside here and a little bit of the outside here. And then just slice it right down the middle. And so you have a nice medium steak here. So I'll put that there. And then I'm going to take a little bit of my king crab. And I'll just take a nice slice of this. And I'll put this on as well. And we'll take a very small amount of truffle oil and just drizzle it around that. We could also get our really nice black sea salt here and just put a little bit of this around and on top. Okay. And now for our sous vide one. Again, take the string off because you do not want to serve that to a customer. So again, I'm just going to take a little piece of this edge off here. Okay. We'll put this in and we'll take another piece of our nice king crab leg. And when you're taking the king crab out, there's also a small tendon that you need to take out. And then we'll put our other king crab on there. And we'll finish it again with a little bit of truffle oil, a little bit of black sea salt. And there you have a traditional steak versus a sous vide steak. Now the main part, or the main point here, is that if you look at these side by side, and I'll just trim this one up as well, so that they're both lying flat, okay? If you look at these compared to each other, you'll see that the one cooked in a pan traditionally has on each side of it a fairly big amount of gray, okay? And that's essentially a well-done steak. And the reason it's there is because we used a pan to heat it up and cook it and sear it. Then we put it in the oven and it cooked, touching a pan. So for it to get to this stage inside, it has to get well done on the outside, because as the heat penetrates the meat, in order for it to get medium rare, the outside is going to get well done. The difference, though, if you look at the one that's been cooked in sous vide, is there's not really any gray. It's almost wall to wall or side to side, the same doneness. And so this is one of the benefits of a sous vide machine and cooking it in a sous vide, is that you get a more equal or more uniform doneness of the meat. So you can see right there the difference when they're side by side is that this one has very, very well done edges, whereas this one is completely medium in color. So there you go, traditional versus sous vide steak with king crab and truffles.